All right, hi everybody. This is Jetta here with the Pandemic Wellness Coalition, and I am here to bring you the lifestyle series, Talk and Dialogue, how to incorporate health and well-being in everyday life. And the inspiration for this really came from living in accordance with yogic principles, ancient practices that have been considered good for health and well-being for thousands of years. These ones specifically are aimed around the Yamas and the Niyamas, which are yogic codes of conduct, as well as Ayurvedic medicine, which is one of the oldest medicinal systems in the world. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So once more, where this came from, a lot of this came from the Yoga Sutras of sage Patanjali, which were written about 500 BCE by a sage named Patanjali. This is also all yogic things, but I think it's important to say that when people think of yoga, oftentimes they think of asana or postures, and they don't think so much of lifestyle that goes along with it. But traditionally, it is a lifestyle. It's not just a systematic series of postures that people do for fitness. Actually, what it is all about is getting you in touch with a healthier and more truer version of yourself. Mental health is often prioritized, as is shadow work or facing the parts about you don't really like too much. And eating well, taking care of yourself. Longevity is really emphasized here. So there are 8 limbs that Patanjali wrote about in the Yoga Sutras. There are the Yamas, which are practices of self-restraint. The Niyamas, or practices of good habits. Asana, or practices of posture. This is what we think of when we think of yoga typically. Pranayama, or breath work. Pratyahara, or withdrawal of the senses. Dharana, or fixed meditation. Dhyana, or the separation of subject and object. And then lastly, samadhi, or oneness. This is kind of like the level where people might say that somebody is enlightened. So we're going to start with the yamas. This is really about the yamas and the niyamas and practices of self-restraint and then practices of health and well-being. So there are 4 yamas. There's ahimsa, which is nonviolence, satya, truthfulness, brahmacharya, maintenance of vitality, and then aparigraha, or non-possessiveness or non-stealing. So for this, what I'm going to try to do every 2 weeks is when we meet. So I am going to introduce 2 different practices during each session. That way you can spend 1 week on each one, and then we can come together and we can talk about it afterwards, what worked for us, what didn't. So first we're going to talk about ahimsa, or nonviolence. And the person, you might have heard of ahimsa, the person that really made ahimsa popular was Gandhi, who is a peaceful protester around the time where India got its earned or re-earned, I don't know quite the best way to say it, but once they were free of colonial rule from England and got their sovereignty back. And Gandhi was a big player in that. Gandhi, as a peaceful protester, he tried to embody ahimsa, or nonviolence, as much as possible. And that's typically who somebody might think of if they think of the practice of ahimsa, or nonviolence. So let's talk about ahimsa and how one might embody nonviolence. So this encourages us to create peacefulness within us and around us. It's important to remember here that, as with everything with how we perceive reality, it's important to start within, because everything starts with your thoughts. Your thoughts are the fertile soil from which everything around you seems to grow. It's through our thoughts that we notice things about us around us, and that is the easiest way to kind of fall into optimism or pessimism, is depending on the quality of our inner stereo here. So ahimsa starts with thoughts. What are the quality of your thoughts? I want you to ask yourself that. What are the quality of your thoughts on a daily basis? Just sit for a second and think, what are the quality of my thoughts? Are they perhaps judgmental? Are they optimistic? Are they pessimistic? Are they realistic? Now, what about your thoughts towards yourself? That's the most challenging bit, I would say. Learning how to talk kindly to ourselves. I'm going to pull this in like this because I feel like it was too far away. Another way that we can align ourselves with this idea of nonviolence is by writing down our morals and values, getting in touch with those. So, how to embody ahimsa? After writing down your morals, take a look at your daily life and ask yourself, do you live in accordance with your morals? Do you embody your morals through your actions, through your talks, or through your thoughts, through how you speak with others? I want you to first look at the interactions with the people around you and the way that you interact. Any judgments that might arise, and also your energy levels and where your energy levels shift during the interaction. Then I want you to keep in mind that the people around us are ultimately our mirrors. That which we do not like in others is that which we do not like in ourselves. And that which we like in others is typically that which we like in ourselves. So because of this, how we treat others is often a reflection of how we treat ourselves. And I want you to think for a moment here, and I'm going to tell a bit of like a personal anecdote here, but I know that when I'm not doing very well with myself, it really comes off as a perception of how I am treating other people. Like, in short, when I'm not doing well within myself, I feel as though I'm really hard on others. And I mean, I might not vocalize this or act on it at all, but it is something to keep in mind. That's kind of a red flag with myself here is I notice if I'm getting irritated or people are draining me, it's just proof that I need to embody more within myself. I need to work with what I do like and don't like within myself. All right, so how to embody ahimsa. After working with nonviolence in your immediate surroundings, look at whether or not your daily habits embody your morals, right? We already talked about that. But take a look at the clothes you wear to the food you eat, and think about what implications that might have for the world at large and other people that it might affect, right? When it comes to life here, especially in a globalized society, everything exists as a ripple effect. I mean, just think about this shirt here. This shirt I think came from Bangladesh. And I wonder, okay, how does the creation of this shirt, think about all the different people that had to touch it to get it here to me. People had to shear the wool from the lambs. They had to make it. They had to ship it over to the United States. They had to put it in a store. They had to put it in a warehouse or wherever. I think I bought this shirt online actually. But ask yourself about that ripple effect. And then you can also do it once more, again, with the food you eat. A lot of steps go into putting food on our table. This is a coffee farm. It's supposed to be a coffee farm in Rwanda. It looks almost to me like a tea farm here. But yeah, think about the other people around the world that might be working hard to get us what we need and what that might mean. Look at the methods of consumption. And then look at your money. Do you invest it in companies that you feel as though embody your morals? This could be a way that you could align with ahimsa. And I want you to keep in mind that during all this is change is slow and takes time, and it's also never linear. I'm bringing up a lot of examples here of ways to align yourself with ahimsa, but if you look at your diet, your clothing, anything that you consume, if you start doing that all at once, you will drive yourself crazy. So it's important to take a step back occasionally, give yourself a pat on the back, say, I'm doing the best that I can in this moment, and then continue on. And then also do one thing at a time. So there are some different postures. I'm a yoga teacher, so there are some things that I like to talk about, or postures are a thing that I do like to talk about as much as possible. So a way to embody nonviolence is by seeing yourself as a love warrior, or a peaceful warrior, somebody who is willing to face hardship, really willing to sacrifice parts of themselves or habits in order to ascend and in order to be a better functioning person who gets along better with society and with one another, and who really is just okay within themselves. So the posture that I have here is Warrior 2. It has a beautiful firm stance, a nice big open heart, open chest, and you're looking ahead into what you want to become, into what it is you want to face in order to get closer to that person that you want to become. Living by your morals and kindness creates a sense of power within you. So it's really important to embody those once more, because we want to feel confident. We want to feel powerful within ourselves. Not in, a controlling way or anything like that, but we do want to feel as though we're capable. And we also want to feel as though we can trust ourselves. That's another big one. This allows us to be more firm and comfortable with ourselves. So this next week, focus on this idea of ahimsa or nonviolence, and ask yourself once more, okay, starting with people around us, those are our mirrors. We're starting with our thoughts first. Okay, what are the quality of those thoughts? And then the people around us, who are our mirrors here. And then from there, working our way into the materials that we consume. See what it is that you're okay with and what it is that you're not okay with. And sometimes we don't even have to make changes. We can just observe these things, and we can stay with that observation for as long as we need. So that's an idea. That's an important idea to kind of keep in your back pocket, something that you can consider for later. All right, so next we're going to talk about Satya, or truthfulness, which translates to not lying directly. Actually, from Sanskrit, Satya is not lying. That's how all of the yamas are. It's not insert whatever here. And this is important because it's really important to live in truth. Living in honesty, not just with those around us, but also with ourselves, is also something that's really important to keep in mind, because if we're not honest with ourselves, how are we ever going to be honest with other people? I always say that you are in the longest relationship that you're always going to be with yourself. So it's important to cultivate that relationship and make it a healthy one. So once more, live in truth with whatever it is that you are experiencing in this world, and don't be afraid to face that truth. Again, if you want to expect something like that from other people, you have to start with it yourself first. So once more, again with Satya, we're going to start with our thoughts. Are our thoughts coming from a place of truthfulness? It's easier to hide our fears behind lies or exaggerations. So an example that I would have here, another personal anecdote, is when I mess up, I might think, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid, or I'm so incapable. Incapable is a big word for me, and I think that it's a word that I use all too often to describe myself, never outwardly, obviously. I don't go around to people saying I'm incapable, but it's something that I say to myself frequently. And we all have those buzzwords that we say to ourselves, which it's not true. I mean, who is to say that I'm incapable aside from myself? And when it comes down to it, I'm perfectly capable to do whatever I want, as are you, as is everybody else. So is that coming from a place of truthfulness? No. Another thing that we could think about with our thoughts, how times of hardship play out, and whether or not it's a true account of how they played out. If we're exaggerating them within our minds, if they seemed more grandiose than they were, if somebody came off as perhaps more insulting than they were. And then take a step back and ask yourself, okay, what really happened here? What really happened here? When emotion gets involved, it can be more difficult to see the truth. So we have to really process those emotions first too. We have to allow them to move up and out of us. Practicing breath work really helps here. Just breathing those emotions through you, letting them pass like a wave or like a stormy sky. And then afterwards, we're revealed with a more unbiased truth, an impartial truth. So how can we embody Satya? Satya is all about slowing down, filtering, and then carefully considering our words so that when we choose them, they are in harmony with the first yama, which is ahimsa, or nonviolence, which we just talked about. The yamas and the niyamas kind of build off of one another. They really exist in a web. And as with anything else, we only have an understanding for it based on the comparisons to that which is around it. So keep that in mind if you're feeling lost with truth. You can fall back on the first yama. Another way that you can practice this is to start with monitoring your needs versus your wants. It's pretty common for us to say, oh, I need this, when we don't. Our needs are actually very few. I would say though the vice versa of that, the I want, we use too much, or we use too much when it comes to our mental health. So there are things that we need with our mental health that we don't typically get because they're not always embraced. And the studies of mental health are still quite young, and we're still trying to understand them as well. So I'd perhaps write those down, or just maybe spend like half a day or longer, depending on how much you want, to sit down and write down everything that you typically say, I need about or I want about. You can also carry around a pen and paper or your notepad on your phone, and you can write down what it is that you say in conversation to people that you might not even realize that you're saying all the time. And look at the way that your expectations shape your reality as well. That's something else that's important to keep in mind when it comes to Satya, because a lot of times when we're disappointed in other people or we're disappointed in the world at large, it's because we have different expectations. And so be honest with yourself. Okay, is this person really disappointing? Is the situation really disappointing? Or was it me and my expectations? And again, be kind with yourself here, because there are things that we should have high expectations for, right? We should have good expectations to be treated fairly and with love. That's something to keep in mind. Okay, and then the last thing is look at the way your personal bias and upbringings are reflected in the way that you view the world. Perception is really important because we are all living on this world within the windows of that which is our experience, with that which we have grown up with, that we've been conditioned to, from the place that we were raised, to the parents whom raised us, to the media around us. So when it comes to things that might trigger you, look at your personal bias, look at your upbringing, and see what it is from there. And again, we do this impartially. We always start practices like this impartially without the emotion. But look at those things. Really look at those things and think, okay, what is it that is making this important and is making this triggering? And that can also help align you with your truth. Allow truth to be a guide when you are lost. Allow it to open up your heart and feel. And this is important because Satya allows us to embody our authentic selves. And I'm a true believer that when we are embodying our authentic selves, we are better world players. And then once more, I said this just a little bit ago, but it makes us be able to get along with each other better and be able to work more efficiently. We don't have so much clouding around. And then a good yoga posture for this, she's doing cow face pose. Opening your heart beautifully and brightly, stretching out your arms. Your arms are an extension of your heart, really. You can think about the way that you hug people with your arms, how you shake your hand, how you shake others' hands. You eat with your hands as well. There's a lot that you do with your hands and with your arms that really are an extension of emotion, or maybe they're feeding your emotion too. So go ahead and sit back, stretch all of that out beautifully, breathe deeply here, and allow your mental chatter to quiet a bit. And if it doesn't quiet, that's fine. Maybe just listen to it and see what it has to say. So for the second week, you're going to practice Satya, or truthfulness. And then again, we'll come back and we'll reconvene and talk about Ahimsa and Satya. What I'd recommend if you're going to be taking this workshop, course, whatever it is you want to call it, dialogue, talk, monologue, it's a monologue today. Start by monitoring your thoughts, then your immediate surroundings, next your relationships, and then finally the far-reaching implications of your actions. That's the way that we're gonna, or the template that we're gonna follow when it comes to practicing these things. I'd recommend buying a journal and then recording your findings, what felt good and what didn't. Another thing that you can look at is what made you gain energy, what felt good, what really felt good, what was invigorating. And then what made you lose energy? What made you tired or sleepy or just apathetic, maybe even? And then keep track of these changes that were felt. Take 5 minutes in the morning and in the evening to ground and reflect. Lay down flat on the ground is what I'd recommend. Allow yourself to be fully supported by the earth underneath you, and breathe. Calm down your parasympathetic nervous system. This is going to be what allows you to integrate your day and then integrate the things that you have learned. And the goal here is to bring in more of the stuff that makes us feel good and keep out more of the stuff that doesn't make us feel good. And you can take whatever you want and you can leave whatever you want. Cool. So that's it. that ends my talk today. I'd be really interested if you're going to partake or what you think about it, how your journey goes. Please feel free to leave comments below. And yeah, I would love to hear from each and every one of you, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you again for viewing and for being here. Bye-bye. See.